You are listening to Studio MacGyver's Dragon Ball and Video Game Podcast.
What is going down? What is going down? It is your boy, Studio MacGyver, and you are listening to Studio MacGyver's Dragon Ball and Video Game Podcast. Welcome to the show. Let me say in advance, guys, I'm apologizing for my voice. I'm a little bit under the weather, so please forgive the way I sound right now. It's just, it happens, and, just a little sick, and I'm still going to do the podcast. And I've been sick before. Longtime listeners know that. I just keep pushing on for you guys and, for the love of nerd culture. But anyway, guys, if you're new to this podcast, I just want to say welcome. And we talk about anime. We talk about video games. We talk about everything in between. We talk about nerd culture. If that's what you're looking for, I think you've come to the right place. Today's episode, I'm going to be talking about a couple of things. I'm going to be talking about some Star Wars Battlefront 2. Yes, I'm going to get into that. I know that's kind of out of left field, but I want to talk about that a little bit. There's so many things on the horizon, guys, especially when we're talking about Star Wars. I'm fucking excited. I cannot fucking wait. Next week's podcast is going to be a doozy. It's going to be basically a Star Wars special because we have so many things looming in the distance with Star Wars. And I want to talk about all of that. Actually, I'm kind of new to the Star Wars franchise as far as being a fan, being, trying to get into it. I've talked about this briefly before, how, I've always wanted to get into the Star Wars, the Star Wars product brand, the lore, all of those things. But, I just never, it just never came out right. The timing wasn't there for whatever reason. And I think now is a perfect time for that. There's been a lot of controversy surrounding the movies as of late, and what they're doing with that as far as the story and how the characters are being written and all of these type of things, man. A lot of the fans are really, really torn about it. But there's a light at the end of that tunnel, and that light is The Mandalorian. I'm going to get into that. We're also going to talk about the Outer Worlds. I beat the Outer Worlds. Last week's podcast, I actually had it beat then, but I had a guest on the show. And, I was a little flustered on that show because, it's my boy. And I was just really tripping on the fact that we actually had the time to finally link up and, do this podcast thing. So, I had to, take a step back, get my composure back, and I'm back now. On this episode, and hopefully the next time we do a show, it'll be a little bit cleaner. I don't know. I mean, I'm my biggest critic. So when I listen to my podcast, I go over things that I could have done better, things I could have, changed or whatever. And that's just, because I want to give you guys the best, product that I can possibly give you guys. So with that being said, I'm going to get into the Outer Worlds, now as far as, what I thought about the game. And, I finally finished it. And, I was under some time constraints in a sense. So that's kind of going to, have a little something to do with it. But overall, I'll be able to tell you guys everything that, you need to know about it for the most part. I'm going to break it down really quick, really simple. And, if you guys haven't played it yet, you can definitely make that decision. And also, I want to talk about Death Stranding. I'm going to talk about, the reviews are out. We talked briefly about it, last week, but that podcast was actually recorded a couple of days earlier than I usually record it. So, all the reviews, hadn't come out yet, and I hadn't had time to get to those. So, I think I remember one of the writers giving the game a 9 out of 10. And that's from IGN. But actually, there's another reviewer, the one that everybody's looking at as the definitive review, which got a 6.8. I'm going to get into that because reviews are, the reviews are just all over the fucking place, man. I mean, this game is very, very obtuse, man. Very, very niche, if you're a Kojima fan, a lot of these reviews, I feel, in my opinion, are kind of slightly biased towards Kojima, being fanboys and being, a big fan of a lot of his games. But, it is what it is. I'm going to get into that as well. Also, man, trying to start a collection. I actually, started a Star Wars collection. Yes. The Mandalorian has nudged me enough to say, you know what, go out and take that leap and start, start the collection, man. I mean, and I'm going to get into that as well. Like I really wanted to get into the lore of Star Wars. That's what intrigues me. I love lore. I'm a big sucker for lore in any kind of, entity, any kind of series, if you will. It could be a terrible series, but if the lore is decent, then, I'm kind of like, I'll give it a chance. I'll look into it or whatever. But yeah, man, really the Star Wars video game is what kind of sparked everything for me as far as, trying to get into it. And like I said, I'm going to elaborate in Two Shakes of a Lamb's Tail. But first, I want to, I guess vent a little frustration. It's not a big thing, but, when it comes to Vinland Saga, because Vinland Saga, if you guys aren't familiar with that anime, it's a dope series. It's one of my, top 5, in 2019. And, they left us on a cliffhanger last episode. And I thought that episode was going to come out, this Sunday, and it did not fucking happen. There was a delay. And man, that's one of my other frustrations with anime. Sometimes when you're watching it on a weekly basis and they do weekly episodes, you just have it in your mind that, you're going to get one every week, and it just doesn't fucking happen with anime. It does that a lot for a lot of different animes. And sometimes you have to wait not just one fucking week. Sometimes you wait 2 or 3. There's been instances where that's happened for, certain properties. And Vinland Saga, they really fucking led us up to, this super climactic, part of the show. And now we have to fucking wait, another fucking week for it. And it's just, I'm a little upset about that, man. It was getting really, really good and it happened. But yes, if anybody out there was wondering about Vinland Saga, yes, it's been delayed 1 week. So it's just another thing that, we have to contend with. And I don't know why they did that, with so much other anime out there and with the Star Wars shit coming up. There's just so many things like in the air right now. Like I said, guys, next week is going to be crazy. Next week's show is going to be crazy. I can't fucking wait. But, let's get into, this other stuff, man. Let's get into, I want to talk about Outer Worlds real quick. The game is done. I finished it. I think I spent about 40 hours in the game, 45 hours, I think, on the game. And that's, pretty damn good, because a lot of people were saying that, the game is, it could be a 20-hour game easily, if you just go straight to the story. It could easily be that. But somebody like me who loves doing side quests, loves doing those things, fleshing out the game, I decided to try to pursue that, even though I was renting the game and I had kind of like a limited, time. I didn't want to keep it more than 10 days. So I was trying to, take my time, but at the same time, when that time got short, I had to go on and say, okay, look, let's pick it up and let's just shoot through this story. And, that's what happened. So the game is it's a great game. I definitely recommend this game for anybody who wants a single player, semi-open world experience. And semi-open world meaning that, there's different planets to go to. And on those planets, there's, smaller sections of pieces in that world where you can kind of explore and go and do your thing at. I could have done more, in this game, which is so crazy. I mean, it gives you so much freedom, when you beat the game, you could kind of, based on the decisions that you've done, based on the places that you went, I mean, that would definitely open up other things, for, you or characters or whatever. I mean, there were so many things I left, in the air because I was kind of on that time constraint. If I had my choice, if I had the game, if I bought the game, I'd probably see myself easily putting on one playthrough. I could see myself putting, 80 hours in this game, at least 70 hours in this game. Because there were so many things that I wanted to finish. There were so many open ended like story arcs, within this game, between all these characters I could have, explored. But like I said, I had to cut it short. And I still, got to explore a nice amount, but there's a lot of things that I didn't get to pick up because of that. There's even planets that I didn't get to touch or even go to because, I didn't flesh out certain things or whatever. So, I mean, that's why the replay value on this game is so, I think, huge. You know what I mean? And that's why I think I'm going to go back and pick it up, at a later date. You know what I mean? Price drop, something like that. Maybe on Black Friday or maybe next Black Friday or whatever, But yeah, I definitely want to replay that game and try another scenario or maybe even 2 or 3. Because you could play the game again. I could play it a year from now and, it'll be a completely different experience and then put it up and then come back a year later again and then try something else. And that's the kind of game this is. And that's why I think a lot of people enjoy it. Yeah, that's just my opinion on it. I mean, that's the basis of the game. That's the basic, breakdown of, this game. I mean, there's a lot of cool weapons to grab, to get. I'm not going to spoil like the ending because like I said, there's so many, there's the scenario is crazy. Part of the reason why I would love to replay it again is because I would want to see like a different ending for, these characters. What's cool about the ending in this game is the narrator of the game. He kind of just breaks it down, and tells you the fate of, the team that you have assembled. So I didn't even have like everybody recruited, that I could have recruited. I had a few people on my team, which I could have had more, could have probably even had less. But everybody who was on my squad, their stories were fleshed out at the end. In other words, the narrator broke down what happened to all of them and what they were doing now, after all this stuff was over with. So I think that was a cool kind of thing that they put on the end of the game. I thought that was very creative in my opinion. Like I said, guys, this is a game that, I recommend to anybody who, are on the fence about playing it. So if you were, give it a shout, go get it, go rent it if you having that much of a doubt about it. But it's definitely worth your time, and I highly recommend that game. Anyway, moving on. Man, what I really want to talk about is, I've been playing, a lot of Battlefront 2, Star Wars Battlefront 2, this past weekend, guys. I'm really enjoying my time in the Star Wars universe right now. I'm learning a lot of things. I finally just took some time and said, you know what? Since I'm so excited about this game, the Fallen Order, it might do me some good to, refresh on, what's been going on in this universe and whatnot. And then, with Disney Plus coming up, which I'll have, because of The Mandalorian, that's really what kind of intrigued me and really got me into the Star Wars, that kind of pushed me all the way in. You know what I mean? I felt on the outside, looking through this glass window, wondering, if I should go in there and get lost into it. But, my world is consumed with, other media and other forms, which is, mainly anime and gaming. And, I thought I'd carve a section or carve a place out for Star Wars. I at least owe it that much. You know what I mean? Especially when I have friends who, are into the Star Wars thing, and they've been kind of preaching it to me, in certain conversations or whatnot. And then all this media that we're starting to get now, coming out. And it's just, I don't know, I think it's the Star Wars gods telling me, like, you're into anime already, you're into video games, you're into that kind of that nerdy, world and universe. This right here, this is right pretty much for you. You know what I mean? This thing is got your name written all over it. Go in there, jump in and really explore, Now, as far as the movies are concerned, I did like the movies. I'm not Google and gaga over the movies like a lot of fans are. I definitely appreciate the lore, and that's probably like the strongest thing I could say about it. And there definitely are some dope characters. What really got me, I guess, intrigued, like 110% intrigued about just the universe was the Mandalorians in general. Just the armor, Boba Fett and, Jango Fett, their armor, and there's the history of their characters. And what's so crazy is, upon further digging, because the whole time I thought up to this point that they were fucking Mandalorians, and apparently they are not Mandalorians. They have the Mandalorian armor, and they operated in kind of like the Mandalorian way, but technically they were not by blood or anything like that. They were not Mandalorians. So, Boba Fett was like, which I'm sure a lot of people's favorites in the universe, and he was mine, leading up to, where I am today. And, there's a couple other characters that I really gravitated to and really loved, really like Mace Windu is another character who I really like as far as the Jedi is concerned. But this universe, these characters, that out of all the characters was the one that kind of got me intrigued. And then when I heard about this Mandalorian show, because to be honest with you guys, I didn't give a damn about the Disney Plus channel, honestly, too much. Now, the cool thing about, what lured me in really at first was the Marvel stuff, the Marvel brand and all of that, and trying to expand and see what was going to happen with that stuff. That's really what got me kind of intrigued. And then my girlfriend, she's into the Marvel universe. She watches all the movies and all of that as well. So she was basically, that was her, decided to, look, I'm going to get Disney Plus. And I'm just like, okay, well, I'm just going to, reap the benefits because you have it. And I just looked at it like that. But then when I got news of these other shows and The Mandalorian came around, I was like, yo, this is a show about, this race of people and, this badass out here in these Star Wars streets. And I was like, yo, okay, I'm in. I want to see this. I'm interested. And then I started like digging more into the, lore. And everybody, has been telling me, really a couple guys have been preaching, look, you need to fucking watch the Clone Wars. Like the Clone Wars is the shit. I think you'd really appreciate it and you should watch it and you'd learn a lot from watching it as well. And I said, cool. So I started looking for it because I said, you know what? I remember seeing this on Netflix. And then I guess, it was a longer time than I thought because when I went back to look, it was nowhere to fucking be found. It was not on Netflix and couldn't find it. So it's moving to, Disney Plus, of course. Also found out that there's going to be a season 7 coming out in February sometime for the Clone Wars. But I also, really gravitated to the Clone Wars, just hearing little stories, watching videos on YouTube, just trying to, whet my appetite. And, I've discovered a lot of different characters, man, that I really appreciate in this universe. And, like I said, I'm what you call a rookie, wet behind the ears kind of guy when it comes to Star Wars. And I think that's really exciting for me because when you're approaching something as big as Star Wars and you're trying to get into it, I mean, the world is your fucking oyster in a sense. You can kind of just go in there and lose yourself. So you can, like for me, it'll probably be The Mandalorian first, where I jump in there and then you get bits and pieces of, different lore, and then you take what you've learned from watching that and you kind of get curious and you kind of go off into so many different forks, in the road. And, you kind of go off in the direction you want to go in. Like, okay, you might hear a name or you might hear some kind of, I don't know, some kind of fairy tale or a campfire, discussion about a character that is awesome. And you're like, okay, who is this guy or who is this girl? And then you can kind of go off and Google them and look into it. And then you can kind of say, okay, well, if you watch this, this tells an arc or a story about this character and you can kind of figure out, you know what I mean? And so on and so forth. And then you kind of you're starting to, get off in your own footprints and walk around in this Star Wars universe and just, you're finding all kinds of things, discovering all kinds of new characters and things like that. So, same thing with this game, the Star Wars game, Jedi Fallen Order. That's another Star Wars story in itself. And it's telling a story that I can't wait to figure out, what's going to happen. And, and on that story and all the characters that are, come across in that game, I already know a little bit because I watched Rogue One and, one of the characters definitely is in Rogue One is in this game. So, I just think that's awesome. I think that's cool how they they're telling more and more stories, and they don't necessarily have to be in, the cinematic universe now. And I think that's the direction that Star Wars is going, because not just the Mandalorian that I'm excited for. There's also an Obi-Wan Kenobi show that is going to be coming out, like I'm assuming 2020, sometime late 2020 or maybe early 2021. And I think there's another Star Wars story as well, if I'm not mistaken, coming. So right now, I think it stands that there are going to be 3 Star Wars, television shows that are, in production right now, and probably more to come. And I think that's awesome, because we've never gotten that from Star Wars, and I just think that the technology, looking at reviews and looking at people, talking to the directors about The Mandalorian in general, they've been saying a lot of cool shit, as far as the technology and how they're able to, make a great show and make it just as beautiful without a huge, production, a budget, because of the technology and where we're at now. And it looks just as good. And that makes it easier for everybody. It makes it easier for the director, for the writers, for the actors, and it makes everything more streamlined so that they can start producing more things at a shorter, time span. And that right there equals, money for Disney, of course, and it also equals, a beautiful thing for the fans and people who are trying to get into this series. You know what I mean? Because there's a lot of people, from my research and looking at all this stuff, that are torn, on this series when it comes to the movies. You know what I mean? A lot of people, surprisingly, don't like, episode 1 through 3. They feel some type of way about it, some of the writing or whatever. And I have to go back and watch those, because I did watch them, years ago or whatever. And I enjoyed what I saw, for the most part. But like I said, I wasn't a super fan like that. So I wasn't really looking, with a fine tooth comb, going over every scene, going over everything, there was to go over, because like I said, I wasn't in that universe like that. But I think those diehard fans, were the ones that were doing that. And I understand them as far as, some of them and what they were doing, and how they felt, and what, why they were doing it. Because, with certain things that I enjoy, like Dragon Ball and, Naruto and some of these other ones, you kind of go over things with a fine tooth comb. And, you have a lot of critiques about it. Even though I love Dragon Ball to fucking death, I mean, I could also find and tell you guys a million things that I could critique and that I didn't like and that I wish would have been different. And I think that I, can sympathize with those Star Wars fans when it comes to that type of stuff. But when you're watching it as a casual person, you're not really, looking for those things. And I don't think I was when I watched it. So I'm assuming that, when I learn a lot more about this universe, that if I go back and watch it again, then I can kind of see where they're coming from. But like I said, I have no room to talk as far as or critique anything about Star Wars, because I have not consumed anything really up to this point on, what's been going on out there. Because you also have, the books, the graphic novels, all of these things. This universe is very, very vast, man. Way more than I, anticipated. And I can't believe I didn't think of the books and all of that. Of course, there are going to be books and comic books and novels and stuff like that out there too. So with all of that, and then combined with all these games that they've come out with, most of these games are canon, and these are characters who've actually, lived in this universe and are in this universe. It's just a beautiful thing how they all come together and they cross paths sometimes. I mean, it's crazy. And that's part of why I really want to get more, in depth into this universe. So, I mean, I have a lot of things to, to want to like about this series. Like I said, I'm also really highly anticipating this Clone Wars thing, man. I mean, I want to see what all the hype is about. And, I'm excited about that because, like I said, I haven't experienced it. I can't wait to see who I'm going to gravitate to, who I'm going to really, be interested in, and who I'm going to hate, and all of that type of things, with these new characters and stuff. So, yeah, very, very interesting. Can't wait. And like I said, next week's podcast is going to be fucking crazy. It's going to be nuts because I'm going to be talking about The Mandalorian, and it comes out on Tuesday. So when it comes out, it typically comes out on Friday. So we kind of get blessed with an extra, episode. So we get one Tuesday, and then a few days later on Friday, we get another one. So that's awesome. So I'll be talking about 2 episodes of The Mandalorian. Also, I'll be talking about Jedi Fallen Order. So like all of this in one podcast, yo, I mean, I don't know if I'm going to have room to talk about anything else, and that's cool and that's fine. And I can't wait to do it. Yeah, everybody is really, really anticipating this show. A lot of, Star Wars fans have been saying that, oh, this could sink, or, this could save or sink, Star Wars or whatever. I don't think it's that big of a deal, that dramatic, but I do think that this show has a lot, hinging on its shoulders as far as, how Star Wars fans feel about it and what they have going on. But from, listening to what's been going on in those streets, it looks to be, a good thing, because like I said, they've already started writing for season 2. Like they, in their heads and their minds, know that they feel that they have a fucking hit right now. From what I've seen on the trailers and everything, I mean, it looks fucking awesome. And really what got me into, how I look at Star Wars, or how I look at The Mandalorian, shall I say, I look at it like this. This is what really kind of just really just took me. They kind of remind me of, the Saiyans of the Star Wars universe. When I think of Mandalorians, I think of, they're a warrior race, and, the Jedi is like the creme de la creme out here, in these Star Wars streets. And, everybody is looking at these Mandalorians like, damn, yeah, these Mandalorians are fucking wet. And when I say wet, if you're new to the podcast, guys, that is a term that I created, WETT, and it means amazing and highly skilled. So if you hear me say wet or use that word, referring to characters or whatnot, that's what I'm saying. That's what I mean. So, yeah, you're not, hallucinating. That is real. But anyway, they're a wet fucking race. I mean, and looking at those clips, looking at those trailers, I mean, this Mandalorian guy looks fucking wet. I mean, he was doing some stuff that, and he was doing it it looks like without hardly thinking about it. So like I said, I can't wait to, that's what really got me into it. They just remind me of, they could be Saiyans, in this universe or whatnot. So yeah, I'm really, digging this show. And speaking of, I mentioned collecting and trying to start, a collection of these figures. I did some digging, and I found that, this Black Series is what they're called. Star Wars Black Series is, I think they have about 90 something figures out already now in this Star Wars line, which is crazy, which is the 6-inch figures, the ones that, I usually collect. I do a lot of 6-inch size figures. I do a lot of Marvel, not a lot, but a small collection of Marvel, and then my anime stuff, kind of teeter-totters in there, at the top. But yeah, man, they have a gang of merch. They have a shitload of merch out. And I, as for anticipation for the show, The Mandalorian, I was just doing some digging, and I found out that there's actually a Mandalorian figure out. And I was like, really? Is that crazy? And I already automatically told myself I need to try to get my hands on one now, because when this show comes out, I think that they're gonna get scarce really quick, man. I really do. And I got lucky, found one at a GameStop, told those guys to hold it for me, and yeah, went ahead and grabbed it. And he's in the room in the man cave, hanging up on the wall, man. So yeah, there's a couple that I really, really want to get. There's a couple that I really, like I said, I didn't even know about this line. Like, I wasn't into Star Wars. I wasn't checking for Star Wars. So now that, I am, my wallet is gonna be hurting, pretty soon, man, because there's a few of them that I want to, add to the list, and some awesome ones, to be honest with you guys. I mean, I've seen a Mace Windu version, and it looks, I mean, you want to talk about a spinning image of Samuel L. Jackson. God damn it. It is, you know what I mean? And I was like, yo, I have to have this one. I have to. So, I am excited, man. I'm just excited in general, as far as just trying to get into this Star Wars universe. And I can't wait to see what I'm going to discover, man. You know what I mean? Yeah, I'm very, very excited, man. I had to talk about it, especially next week's episode is going to be so crazy. My plate is going to be filled with just Star Wars, everything. And I can't fucking wait. if you want to go to my Instagram, you can check out the Mandalorian that I did happen to pick up at the GameStop. I did take a picture of it. You guys, my longtime listeners, just check it out if you feel the need to. But yeah, I want to know how hard that Mandalorian thing is gonna be to find in about a week. I would love to, just go back and check and see if, the scalpers, are going crazy out there, which they probably will with a lot of these. But like I said, we'll see. Anyway, guys, back to Battlefront 2. Man, I remember renting this game when it first came out, I think 2017. I think I rented it at a Redbox or something, man, for like, a week maybe. And I just remember the game being so beautiful. Like the graphics of this game, like they're crazy good. I mean, DICE, if I have to say anything, I will say that DICE is just crazy when it comes to, the detail that they, put into this game with these characters and just the atmosphere and whatnot. And that made me want to play it. Like I said, also wanting to get into the Star Wars lore, trying to get into it or whatever. And, I picked it up, but man, it was one of those things, like a No Man's Sky, had that No Man's Sky syndrome where, the game came out, there was the loot box, fiasco that, took the fucking video game world by fucking storm. I mean, the butter was out. I mean, they had warm butter in their hands and we were all, incapacitated, with our pants down, and they were ready to insert, a glazed dick into our asses. I mean, that's pretty much what was happening, when that game first came out, and then it just kind of fell from grace. Everybody, walked away from it, and I thought it was going to be the end of that. And then upon further review, after all this time has passed, apparently they've been supporting the game and righting all their wrongs up to this point. So there's been so many different updates. There's still more coming. There's one I want to say in December. It's going to be I think the Rise of the Skywalker DLC. There's a lot of things in the works, man, going on with this franchise now. And, basically it's a great time to come back to Battlefield. That's why I've been playing it. They've added a lot of things on it now. I'm really enjoying myself playing this now. It's very fun. They've added new modes. And like I said, it's a completely different fucking game now. And the best thing of all is I picked it up for $10 at my local GameStop. So, I mean, if you're interested and you want to get back into this game, I mean, I think that now is the perfect fucking time to do that. And it's just like I said, it's a whole new fucking game. And I really feel that everybody would enjoy it now playing it again, because it got stale really, really quick, when it first came out, because like I said, everything was bare bones on it, and they were really fucking, trying to, penny pinch is what I like to call it. But now, they're righting all their wrongs and they're adding new stuff all the time, like almost damn near every month. So they're cleaning a lot of things up. The balancing has completely, had an overhaul as far as the heroes gameplay is concerned and all of that. It used to be broken as fuck. I remember those days. And now, it's not the case. So yeah, man, I mean, I highly recommend picking this game back up. You can't lose. You can only win. It's only $10. I mean, what are you going to lose by paying $10? You know what I mean? I think the game is awesome now. And, especially, if you want to get into something, you want something to do, multiplayer wise, while you're, in that Star Wars universe, this is one of those things you could do. You know what I mean? And now we have the Fallen Order around the corner, and it's just like, it's amazing. I mean, with those two games, I'll be set, on Star Wars games, for a little while, for quite some time, and I can't wait to jump into the Fallen Order, because I have so many things I want to do in that game, and I want to flesh it out, to as much as I can flesh that game out. You know what I mean? I'm not going to leave any stone unturned if I can help it. You're going to try to platinum it. I always say I'm going to try to platinum this or try to platinum that. I get close to a lot of games, and then some, I just, whatever. I mean, God of War, I've came real close, and I'm still going to try to platinum that, eventually. Also, Horizin Zero Dawn is another one I would like to platinum. Some of the ones I really, really enjoy. And I feel that the Fallen Order is going to be another one of those games that I really am going to try to, platinum. We shall see, though. I mean, we got the maps, we got everything. So hopefully, my droid will, assist me and help me, attain that victory. But we shall see. Anyway, guys, I've been going on and on about, the Star Wars stuff right now, and rightfully so. I mean, rightfully so, because I feel worthy, to be talking about like this now. You know what I mean? And this podcast, is so perfect for Star Wars discussions. It's right up in there, with the Dragon Ball stuff, with the anime, with the video games. Because I mean, if we haven't proven this yet, I mean, isn't it evident that where we're at right now? I mean, we're talking about Star Wars, movies. We're talking about Star Wars TV shows now. We're talking about Star Wars video games now. They're all woven, intertwined with each other now. It's like, and they're all telling their own stories within, their section. Like, it's crazy. You know what I mean? So there's a Star Wars story playing out on the video games. There's a Star Wars story playing out on TV and in the fucking movies. So it's like they all go fucking hand in hand. And I talk about video games and I talk about anime and stuff like that on this show. The Clone Wars is another thing. You know what I mean? It's animated. It's something that, piqued my interest. It's something that I can't wait to get into as well and start talking about. So, I mean, all these things go hand in hand with this podcast, this nerd culture, thing. And, I love when I discover something. I love when I, find something else that I get excited about and want to learn about, and this is one of those things because I'm going in completely blind for the most part. I mean, I know a little bit, you know what I mean? I've been one of my favorite Star Wars games of all time, and I was, this is as a casual fan, just as somebody who loves video games. I mean, was, Knights of the Old Republic 1 and 2. I mean, those games, I mean, just so many great memories playing those, you know what I mean? And, also, The Force Unleashed, 1 and 2. So, I mean, great times. Like I said, as a casual fan playing it, not knowing too much about, that universe, but I learned a lot playing those games. But then I also learned that that's just a blip on the radar. You know what I mean? It's so, the universe is so vast, so there's so much more to gravitate to and to want to learn about. And I think that's awesome. But yeah, guys, I just want you guys to look forward to next week's podcast because, like I said, it's going to be a Mandalorian Jedi Fallen Order special. Can't wait to get into that. I might even have a guest. I'm not sure yet, but I will definitely let you guys know, maybe a day or two before the podcast drops. If you follow me on Instagram or Twitter, I'll put something up there for you guys. But definitely look forward to that next week's podcast. It's going to be a fucking doozy. Now I'm going to talk about... the elephant in the room, which is Death Stranding. But before I get into that real quick, I also want to let you guys know that Horizin Zero Dawn 2 has been confirmed. I found that out the other day. And, I knew that game was going to be confirmed. The game was just, the first one was so good, so fucking good. And I'm still, I've been playing that, not too long ago. It's on my PlayStation. So, the graphics, I mean, beautiful. Matter of fact, the Jedi Fallen Order, I think they're using the same engine. They're using kind of a, I guess, slightly different version of that same engine to make that game. So, and that game looks breathtaking graphically as well. But yeah, it has been officially confirmed. They're hiring people already to, work on this game. And I just thought I'd mention that, guys. It's not coming out anytime soon. We probably won't see it until the PlayStation 5, but it is coming. And that is a game that I'm definitely excited for, especially on the PlayStation 5. As beautiful as that game was on the 4, oh my God, what are they going to do with the 5, man? It's what I want to fucking know. But yeah, thought I'd add that. Now let's move on to the last part of the podcast. And that part is going to be Death Stranding. I talked about it last week, guys, a little bit. And, I got one review off of that. And the review that I got was a 9 out of 10. It was a female writer. I can't remember her fucking name, but, I got a 9 out of 10. But then upon further review, there was another one that came out from IGN, which was a 6.8. And I think that's the definitive, review, for it. But, looking at all these other reviews, man, I mean, it's a very mixed fucking bag. And I remember talking to a friend of mine and telling him, look, I think this game is going to even get some fucking 4s. I mean, and I think, there are gonna be some 9s, but there are also gonna be some fucking 4s. And he was like, really, you think so? I said, yeah, man, this game is one of the strangest games, I can remember to date, as far as you know, how to review it, because the Dreamcast guy is a guy that I fuck with on YouTube. If you guys don't know about him, he talks about games and stuff. The Dreamcast guy, anyway, he put a video out and he said, it's a game that Death Stranding is a game that's not fun, but that he loves. And I'm like, okay. And apparently that is a theme going on out here. I mean, in these video game streets, this game is it's very, man, you want to talk about, subjective. I mean, this is the definition of subjective. When you talk about this game, I mean, you got people giving it 9s. You got people giving it 4s. I mean, it's all over the fucking place. Let me give you a quick rundown. IGN, like I said before, there's one review that got a 9 out of 10 and the other one is a 6.8. There's a Metacritic. It's got an overall score a Metascore of 83, and that's based off 84 reviews. But they also have a user score, and the user score is 7 out of 10, and that's based off of like almost 7,000 reviews. Okay, so I think 67-43. So that, in my opinion, is probably what the game is. Just from what I've seen, I was giving the game like a 6.5 out of 10. That's what I was giving it. The game, cosmetically looks breathtaking. I mean, it's a beautiful game. I mean, graphically, Jesus Christ, it's crazy beautiful. Okay. And I'm not talking about the movie. But yeah, it is, man. It's the graphics are a breath of fucking fresh air. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to candy coat it. I mean, I'm going to tell it like it is. But as far as, the game as a whole, if you want to sum it up, I mean, it's pretty much a UPS delivery simulator. I mean, it's what, and those aren't even my words. Those are somebody else's words. Okay. You're doing a lot of fucking traversing, a lot of walking, delivering packages from here to there. There's not a lot of combat in it as one might have thought, but there is some in there. Non-lethal, of course, without giving too much of the game away. But, that's your premise of the game. That's your basic ABC, wash, rinse, and repeat of this title. And, I mean, there's an audience rating summary as well that's out, and they gave it a 4.4. And that's only based off of 115, reviews. But like I said, this shit is all over the place. You got some people that say they hate it. You got some people that say they love it. And you got some people that say it's just an okay game. It's just a confusing game. They don't know, how to brand this game. You know what I mean? And it's not for everybody. Please, understand that. It is definitely not. And that's why I chose not to rent it, because I was going to rent the game. But then after seeing all these other reviews, I decided, no, I'm not even going to rent it, because in all, it's a 50 to 60 hour game. And I'm not going to be putting that much time into a game if that's all I'm going to be doing. I just don't want to do it. And then, it wouldn't be fair to play the game for, a few hours and then, be done with it. If I'm going to play a game like that, I'm going to experience it all the way. And I don't have time to play that game right now with all this other stuff coming up, and trying to flesh it out and trying to see what everybody's talking about right now. So, when there's a price drop or something changes, that might happen. A friend of mine actually rented the game. I talked to him last night a little bit about it, and I'm going to be doing some share play with him. Well, he's going to be doing share play with me probably, in this morning in a few hours. And I'm going to pick his brain on what he's experienced up to this point and talk a little bit about it. He might be joining the show sooner than later, and maybe we can talk about it then a little bit more, from his perspective. But, he's the guinea pig, so to speak, right now in the clique. And, I'm going to see where we stand on that. But yeah, as far as I'm concerned, Friday technically Thursday night is when we're going to get Star Wars. There's going to be a midnight release for it, and I will have it in my hands at fucking 9 p.m. So yeah, I'll be playing it Thursday fucking night. So I'll be getting my time done, started, however you want, whatever you want to call it. I can't wait to dive into there and see what's going on with that. And that orange fucking lightsaber. Ooh, fucking wee. Oh man, so many things to be excited about right now, guys. So yeah, as far as anime is concerned, I just there hasn't been a lot. I've definitely added like literally a dozen more to my list, and I'll be trying to get into some of those. I'm not gonna say next week because, like I said, there's a lot on my plate next week with this game and with the Disney Plus thing. I want to see what that's all about and this, Clone Wars stuff. So I'll definitely be, I think, talking about some Clone Wars stuff in the next couple weeks. I'll definitely be talking about the Mandalorian, and I'll be talking about the Fallen Order. So the next couple of podcasts will be, probably a little Star Wars heavy, especially this next one coming out next week. So definitely be looking for that. And then I think I'll, have time to jump back into some anime, some new anime that I've been trying to watch. Another one that I am very, pleased with that I just want to mention real quick is, in my brain, let me make sure I can find it in my head real quick. Give me a second. Two Shakes of a Lamb's Tail. Fairy Gone. Yes. Fairy Gone is one that kind of just, came out of nowhere. It didn't, just looking at it, it didn't look, just over the top special, you know what I mean? As far as the animation or anything like that, but then I started watching it and, it's just nice, really nice, man. Can I even say noise? Like that motherfucker's pretty fucking wet. Yeah, some of those characters are extremely fucking wet. And just the premise of the story, the design, the art style, I'm really appreciating it. If you guys are looking for something just, something new, something that's not really known too much, and I definitely, check out Fairy Gone. It's still an ongoing series. It came out 2019. So like I said, man, another feather in the cap of, anime of 2019 this year to be talking about. So be looking forward to, my podcast when I do go into a deep, dark discussion about my top anime of 2019. That's also going to be a doozy. That's going to be, at the end of the year or early next year. So be looking out for that one as well. But anyway, guys, this is pretty much the show. I want to thank everybody for listening. Newcomers, if you're new to the show, I want to thank you for, giving me some of your time and taking time out to listen to this podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to reach out to me on social media, you can do so on Twitter at Studio MacGyver, on Instagram at Studio MacGyver79. There's also a Facebook page at Studio MacGyver as well. So those three things, you can definitely reach out and touch me. If you have any questions, if you want me to talk about something on the show, definitely hit me up on any of those outlets, and I will definitely try to make that a reality. Also, if you want to be a guest on the show, if you're interested in being a guest on this show, yes, talking to me about anime, talking to me about games or Star Wars or wherever the fuck you want to talk about, I'd love to do that. I would love to have somebody talk about Star Wars on the show and, give me a lesson in the world of Star Wars or anything else for that matter. You can also inbox me on Twitter or Instagram, and we can do that. I've been reaching out to a couple of other podcasters, and, there might be something on the horizon with that, on a future podcast. But yeah, I'm down to talk to anybody, any of my listeners about any of these things. I consider us a family. I consider us, I consider us a brand, a team. Anybody who, spends time listening to me talk about the shit that I'm talking about, that's what it is. So I want to tell you guys that I appreciate all of the love that I've been receiving from you guys. I really appreciate the listening and the support from you guys. I really do. And I love you guys for that. And I'm going to get out of here with that being said. Okay. I'll catch you guys next week. Please, check me out next week. The Star Wars thing is going to be crazy. With that being said, this is Studio MacGyver. You have been listening to Studio MacGyver's Dragon Ball and Video Game Podcast. See you next time.